Murkhana City was visible now, climbing into steep hills that rose from a long crescent of shoreline, the sheen of overlapping particle shields dulled by the gray underbelly of the clouds. Shryne caught a fleeting glimpse of the Argente Tower before the gunship dropped to the crests of the frothing waves and altered course, pointing its blunt nose toward the stacked skyline and slaloming through warheads fired from weapons emplacements that lined the shore. In a class with Megiddo, Maunalinst, and Neimoidia, Murkhana was not a conquered planet, but a host world, home to former senator and separatist council member Pascal Argente, and headquarters of the Corporate Alliance. Murkhana's deal-makers and litigators, tended to by armies of household droids and private security guards, had fashioned a hedonistic domain of towering office buildings, luxurious apartment complexes, exclusive med centers, and swank shopping malls, casinos, and nightclubs. Arranged like the spokes of a wheel, 4 10-kilometer-long bridges linked the city to an enormous offshore landing platform. Hexagonal in shape and supported on thick columns anchored in the seabed, the platform was the prize the Republic needed to secure before a full assault could be mounted. For that to happen, the Grand Army needed to penetrate the defensive umbrellas and take out the generators that sustained them. But with nearly all rooftop and repulsor lift landing platforms shielded, Murkhana's arc of black sand beach was the only place where the gunships could insert their payloads of clone troopers and Jedi. Shryne was gazing at the landing platform when he felt someone begin to edge between him and Commander Salvo, set on getting a better look through the open hatch. Even before he saw the head full of long black curls, he knew it was Olee Starstone. Planting his left hand firmly on top of her head, he propelled her back into the troop bay. "If you're determined to make yourself a target, Padawan, at least wait until we hit the beach." Rubbing her head, the petite, blue-eyed young woman glanced over her shoulder at the tall female Jedi standing behind her. "You see, Master? He does care." "Despite all evidence to the contrary," the female Jedi said. "I only meant that it'll be easier for me to bury you in the sand," Shryne said. Starstone scowled, folded her arms across her chest, and swung away from both of them. Bol Chatak threw Shryne a look of mild reprimand. The raised cowl of her black robe hid her short vestigial horns. An Iridonian Zabrak, she was nothing if not tolerant, and had never taken Shryne to task for his irascible behavior or interfered with his teasing relationship with her Padawan, who had joined Chatak in the Murkhana system only a standard week earlier, arriving with Master Lorn and 2 Jedi Knights. The demands of the Outer Rim sieges had drawn so many Jedi from Coruscant that the temple was practically deserted. Until recently, Shryne too had had a Padawan learner. For the Jedi's benefit, the gunship pilot announced that they were closing on the jump site.
"Weapons check,"
Salvo said to the platoon.
"Gas and packs."
As the troop bay filled with the sound of activating weapons, Chatak placed her hand on Starstone's quivering shoulder. "Use your unease to sharpen your senses, Padawan." "I will, Master. The Force will be with you."
"We're all dying,"
Salvo told the troopers.
"Promise yourselves you'll be the last to go."
Access panels opened in the ceiling, dropping more than a dozen polyplast cables to within reach of the troopers.
"Secure to lines,"
Salvo said.
"Room for 3 more, General,"
he added, while armored, body-gloved hands took tight hold of the cables. Calculating that the jump wouldn't exceed 10 meters, Shryne shook his head at Salvo. "No need. We'll see you below." Unexpectedly, the gunship gained altitude as it approached the shoreline, then pulled up short of the beach as if being reined in. Repulsor lifts engaged. The gunship hovered. At the same time, hundreds of separatist battle droids marched onto the beach, firing their blasters in unison. The intercom squawked and the pilot said,
"Droid buster away!"
A concussion feedback weapon, the Droid Buster, detonated at 5 meters above ground zero, flattening every droid within a radius of 50 meters. Similar explosions underscored the ingress of a dozen other gunships.
"Where were these weapons 3 years ago?"
one of the troopers asked Salvo.
"Progress,"
the commander said.
"All of a sudden, we're winning the war in a week."
The gunship hovered lower, and Shryne leapt into the air. Using the force to oversee his fall, he landed in a crouch on the compacted sand, as did Chatak and Starstone, if less expertly. Salvo and the clone troopers followed, descending one-handed on individual cables, triggering their rifles as they slid to the beach. When the final trooper was on the ground, the gunship lifted its nose and began to veer away from shore. Up and down the beach, the same scenario was playing out. With projectiles and blaster bolts whizzing past their heads, the Jedi and troopers scurried forward, hunkering down behind a bulkhead that braced a ribbon of highway coursing between the beach and the near vertical cliffs beyond. Through an opening in the bulkhead hastened the 4 members of a commando team, with a captive in tow. Unlike the troopers, the Commandos wore gray shells of Katarn-class armor and carried heftier weapons. The enemy combatant they'd captured wore a long robe and tasseled headcloth, but lacked the sallow complexion, horizontal facial markings, and cranial horns characteristic of the Koravar. Like their fellow separatists, the Neimoidians, Passil Argente's species had no taste for warfare, but felt no compunction about employing the best mercenaries credits could buy. The burly commando squad leader went immediately to Salvo.
Ion Team, Commander. Attached to the 22nd out of Baz Pity.
Turning slightly in Shryne's direction, the commando nodded his helmeted head.
Welcome to Murkhana, General Shryne.
Shryne's dark brows beetled. The voice is familiar, he began.
The face even more so,
the commando completed. The joke was almost 3 years old, but still in use among the clone troopers and between them and the Jedi.
Climber,
the commando said, providing his sobriquet.
We fought together on Deco Neimoidia.
Shryne clapped the commando on the shoulder. Good to see you again, Climber. Even here. Climber lifted his helmet faceplate to the gray sky.
A good day for fighting, General.
I'll take your word for it, Shryne said.
Make your report, squad leader.
Salvo interrupted. Climber turned to the commander.
The Koravar are evacuating the city, but taking their sweet time about it. They've a lot more faith in these energy shields than they should have.
He beckoned the captive forward and spun him roughly to face Salvo.
Meet Idis, human under the Koravar trappings, distinguished member of the Vibroblade Brigade.
A mercenary band, Bol Chatak explained to Starstone.
We caught him, with his trousers down,
Climber continued,
and persuaded him to share what he knows about the shoreline defenses. He was kind enough to provide the location of the landing platform's shield generator.
The commando indicated a tall, tapered edifice farther down the beach.
Just north of the first bridge, near the marina. The generator's installed 2 floors below ground level. We may have to take out the whole building to get to it.
Salvo signaled to his comlink specialist.
Relay the building coordinates to Gallant Gunnery.
Wait on that, Shryne said quickly. Targeting the building poses too great a risk to the bridges. We need them intact if we're going to move vehicles into the city. Salvo considered it briefly.
A surgical strike, then?
Shryne shook his head no. There's another reason for discretion. That building is a med center, or at least it was the last time I was here. Salvo looked at Climber for confirmation.
The General's correct, Commander. It's still a med center.
Salvo shifted his gaze to Shryne.
An enemy med center, General.
Shryne compressed his lips and nodded. Even at this point in the war, patients are considered non-combatants. Remember what I said about hearts and minds, Commander. He glanced at the mercenary. Is the shield generator accessible from street level?
Depends on how skilled you are.
Shryne looked at Climber.
Not a problem,
the commando said. Salvo didn't like it.
I strongly recommend that we leave this to the Gallant.
Shryne regarded him. What's the matter, Commander? We're not killing the Separatists in sufficient numbers?
In sufficient numbers, General. Just not quickly enough.
The Gallant is still holding at 50 kilometers, Chatak said in a conciliatory tone. There's time to recon the building. Salvo demonstrated his displeasure with a shrug of indifference.
It's your funeral if you're wrong.
That's neither here nor there, Shryne said. We'll rendezvous with you at Rally Point Orek Bacta. If we don't turn up by the time the Gallant arrives, feed them the building's coordinates.
You can count on it, sir.